Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. We are going to recap our entire reading year of 2024. We're gonna hopefully try and do this as fast as we can because I read 158 books this past year and we're gonna go through all of them today. So for the format of this video, instead of doing like our usual wrap-ups and stuff, I'm not gonna wrap up every single book like in detail in this video because that would take literally like probably 10 hours. We are instead just going to do a little tour, a little whirl around my little library here, go through all of my shelves, pull out the books that I read this year, and I am going to let you know if I recommend them with a simple yes, no, or maybe, and then like maximum 2 sentences of why I would make that choice, if I would recommend it to you, if I would not, or if I would maybe recommend it to you. So that's today's video. We got a lot to go through. I don't think we should diddle-dally any longer and just get straight into it. Okay, I may have lied just slightly. We're gonna diddle-dally just for like a minute longer because I want to show you guys something super cute. First of all, I want to thank Eyewear for sponsoring this video. As you guys know, I read a lot and that requires a lot of use of my eyes. I also work a full-time job that requires me to be sitting at my desk staring at computer screens all day. And so because of that, obviously eye care is super important to me. And so I got these super cute frames from Eyewear that have blue light protection on them to just help me out with my daily routine. I got the Finley in black. I think these are just so cute. They're so clean. And the coolest thing about these glasses is that you can just swap the look within literally a second. So these top frames I have here are magnetic. So all you have to do if you wake up and you're like, hey, I'm not feeling black today, you literally just, and then you have white frames. I also have chocolate, which I kind of love these. I'm kind of feeling these ones today. They're so cute. If I wake up and I'm feeling super fun, I have pink as well. Ordering these was such a breeze. It's so easy to go through the Eyewear website. They even have this online try-on feature, which made it so easy to find the right style because, you know, it's so hard usually, like especially online, to find frames that fit your face. So the virtual try-on feature on the Eyewear site is just perfection. And what makes them really stand out is they are really like redefining what glasses can be. They're not just about function, they're also a fashion statement. They're all about looking cute. So whether you need prescription glasses, blue light glasses like myself, reading glasses, or even just like an accessory, they have got you covered. And also as a bonus, they are super affordable compared to other brands. These have become a staple for me. They are just a great way to protect my eyes. So if you are ready to take your eyewear game to the next level, you can use my code JamieFalk15 to get 15% off your first pair. I just want to thank Eyewear again for sponsoring this video. Are you ready to start with shelf number 1, book number 1 of 158? I'm not going through this in like reading order in terms of like what I read on January 1st to what I read at the end of December, but we're going through shelf order to make things a little easier for myself because there's no way I'm pulling 158 books from my shelves today and putting them back on. So first things first, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherland, a novel by Heather Fawcett. I would say maybe. If you're into cozy fantasy with like not too much emphasis on plot, this is for you. For me, it's a maybe. Vow of Thieves. I'm gonna pair this with Dance of Thieves as well because I read that book this year. I just don't have it in physical. For the two of these, yes. If you're into a romantasy that has a lot more like scheming and politics going on, this duology is great. Half a Soul, yes. I would recommend this over the Emily Wilde series if you're in for a cozy fantasy. We have another duology here. We have Six Crimson Cranes and The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. Yes, 100%. Yes, read this duology. I also still have the prequel that I need to read that belongs in this world. But if you want to read a fantasy with a bit of romance about a character who is softer, has a softer type of a strength, Six Crimson Cranes. It's beautiful. Another duology. This is the shelf of duologies. A River Enchanted and A Fire Endless. Yes. Definitely a fall winter read. Don't read these in the spring or summer, but these are moody, they're atmospheric, they are musical and magical. And the last book on this little mini shelf unit, Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. I'm gonna say maybe. It's a fun romantasy. I am going on in the series. It's nothing like overly unique, which is why I say maybe. If you want that like romantasy blueprint, if you want to get that like thrill of reading kind of like the same tropes that romantasies always have, read this. But if you're looking for something unique, probably not it for you. Okay, moving on to the second unit. I did read The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black this year to finish off the Cruel Prince trilogy. I would say if you're onto this book, read it. Yeah. For sure, if you've read the first two books, finish off the trilogy. I thought this was a great conclusion to the series, and overall I do like The Cruel Prince, but if you're going into it thinking it is a romantasy, it is not. It is a political fantasy with a bit of a romance subplot, and I would say the world and the politics in this book is much stronger than the romance. So if you're reading for the romance, maybe not, but if you're reading for like a folky, whimsical, fae story, then yeah, go for it. Continuing on, in the world of Elfhame, I also read The Stolen Heir and The Prisoner's Throne as the spin-off duology of The Cruel Prince. I would say, honestly, maybe not. Maybe a maybe. If you're really into the world of Elfhame and just want more of whatever in that world, then read these. If you're expecting more of like exactly what The Cruel Prince is, then no. I'll leave it at that, and I will not leave it at that. I will add one more comment and say The Cruel Prince trilogy was definitely better than the duology. Spectacular, our little Caraval holiday novella. I'm gonna say maybe, because if you just want a fun, cozy Christmas time with characters from Caraval that you have read and loved, then read it. But it doesn't contribute much, if anything. Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Yes, 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 yes. Out of all of the trendy viral romantasies this year, this is definitely one that stood out for me, that was a highlight, that was actually quite well done. And I myself will be continuing in this series, so this one is a yes for me. Shelf number 3, we have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I'm unfortunately going to say maybe. Really wish I could say yes, but I didn't fully vibe with this book. I think the premise of it is strong, and the atmosphere and environment, it had such potential to be an amazing book, but the way the plot went, the direction it went, it didn't give what I wanted from it. If you want to read sort of, again, that like standard romantasy with 3 trials and a love interest, etc., read this book. But if you're looking for something that's like actually darker, more witchy, and more into that lore, I would say no. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I'm gonna give this another maybe. If you want something with a gothic vibe, maybe not the strongest story, if you're just in it for the mood, yes, like if it's October. If it's October, read this book. Other months of the year, I would say there's better. Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. I did enjoy this book. I always have to put this warning here though. This book is quite spicy, and as someone who does not really love spice, I did sort of like, you know, just quickly flip through, skim some of those smut scenes, especially the ones near the end, like after we already had a couple of them. I was like, I don't need more of this, but the story is really fun. The plot, the trials, the whole idea of it. And it's sort of like a gothic horror fantasy, which just like adds a twist on the traditional romantasy. So yes. I also read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker this year. This one is another yes for me. Another viral book talk romantasy that actually worked. This one has just such a magical world. We have dragons, we have like moons, we have elemental magic, we have song, and a really intriguing history to this world I need to know more about. I need to learn more about all the history, the past timelines. There's like journal entries in this book if you're into like that vibe and that trope. And I love the dragons in this world. I love the dragons. Oh boy. I've talked enough about these two on this channel, but I'm just gonna say no. Sorry. They're just too copycat for me. They didn't offer anything new in my opinion. They're just too much of a straight copy of some other books that I've read for me to enjoy these, so no. All right, A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I think you guys already know what I'm gonna say. No. Unfortunately, this book was just so boring for me. Multitude of reasons that I have discussed thoroughly, I think, on this channel, but yeah, this was just so boring for me. I wish it wasn't boring because I haven't read a lot of like Norse mythology type fantasy books, but this one did not do it for me. unfortunately. Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I'm going to say yes. I love Adrienne Young. I think her writing is so moody, atmospheric, again, perfect for like fall, winter reads. And they're just like a little bit of magical realism. I wouldn't even call her books like full fantasy. So if you're looking for more of a lit fic mystery with like a tiny sprinkling of magical realism and a lot of atmosphere, a lot of mood, yes, Spells for Forgetting. Although I will say, I didn't read this book this year, I read it last year, but The Unmaking of June Farrow is better. But I would still say yes. Heartless Hunter. Yes, I had a lot of fun reading this. It's nothing like outstanding. It's not like the best work of literature that you will ever read, but it's addictive, it's fun, it's fast-paced, and it's just pure entertainment. And for that reason, yes. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, our little trilogy that precedes Six of Crows. So far, I'm gonna say maybe after reading the first book. If you want to read Six of Crows, I'm gonna say yes, 100%, read this first. I did it in the wrong order myself, but if you're not planning on reading Six of Crows, maybe, so far. That may change when I read the second and third book, but right now it's a maybe. The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. I'm gonna say no. I'm so sad to say that because I know this is a debut novel from this author, but I think similar to Powerless, it just didn't offer anything new. It was very like tropey standard romantasy, and if you want to read standard trope romantasy, I just read better this year that were either just like more fun, more well written, more exciting, more unique. This one, honestly, I have forgotten about. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna say no. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, this dystopian sci-fi fantasy. Yes, I still have yet to read the second book. It's on my TBR cart, but I definitely will be continuing in this series. This was so good. For more Samantha Shannon, Priory of the Orange Tree, I'm gonna say yes. It's so intimidating because like who the heck wants to read a book that looks like this and weighs this much? But this was really good, especially if you want an epic fantasy with lots of different POVs and kind of spans across like a wide world. Yes. And Five Broken Blades by Mai Corland. Yes, I had so much fun reading this. If you love something like Six of Crows where you follow a bunch of different like kind of misfits that come together and like have to work together, read this one. But this version has a lot more betrayal and just like villain type characters in it that you can't trust, like liars. Yes. Okay, we're down here on the bottom shelf now. The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'm gonna say yes, this was a super fun thriller. I actually feel like by the end of this year, I fell out of love with thrillers. I haven't read one recently that I've been in love with or that I've enjoyed, but this one I do remember having like very fun memories reading. It's spooky, it's fast-paced, there's a lot of twists and turns at the end. Some argue that there are too many twists and turns at the end of this one, but I had a lot of fun reading it. It's creepy, would recommend. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I'm gonna say maybe. If you're looking for more of a mystery, then yes. If you're looking for a thriller, then no, because this is not fast-paced. It's not like a standard thriller structure. It's definitely more of a slower paced, slower burn mystery with like, I don't know, spooky woodsy vibes. So if you're looking for that, yes, but if you're looking for like your next quick page turner, then I would say no. Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, another thriller. I'm gonna say no to this one. This one just disappointed me. It had a really good premise, but it didn't pay off for me. The main character was also just like really annoying and frustrating to read. I'm gonna say no. My first and only Stephen King read so far, Fairy Tale. I'm gonna say no. I was really bored. I was really bored reading this. I thought it was gonna be spookier. I thought it was just gonna be more, I don't know, like immersive and like it wasn't. I couldn't get myself to care about the characters once they entered into like the magical fantasy part of this book, and it just dragged on for way too long. I'm so sorry, I'm gonna say no. I know that this is such a beloved author and I want to try more from Stephen King, but this as my first try from him was a bit of a flop, unfortunately. Okay, I read the first two books of the Inheritance Games series. I'm gonna say yes to these. Definitely yes. There's something in these books that is just so addictive. These are fast-paced, these are mysteries, and if you're looking for something that will like go through quick, that you kind of like want to use your brain power because there are these riddles and you get like hints along the way as to what's happening. You want to use your brain a little bit to like solve those, but also you don't want something that's like so gonna break your brain. Read these because they're really, really easy to read. They're YA, but they also have this element of mystery in them, so they keep you engaged that way. Love these. Would recommend. Ooh, If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I'm gonna say yes, especially if you read The Secret History and you didn't like The Secret History, read this one, because this book is what I think The Secret History should have been, and this is what I was expecting when I was reading The Secret History, but I didn't get what I wanted from that book, and I got what I wanted in this one. Very similar premises, that's why I compare the two to each other, but this one delivered. Ooh, and another Holly Jackson that I read this year, 5 Survive. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes to this one. I said no to the reappearance of Rachel Price, but this one was more fun for me throughout. Again though, I will say the ending, slightly disappointing, but I think because the beginning and middle of this book were so much better for me, I would recommend this one. Yeah. Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. There wasn't much that I liked about this book. I can see what it was trying to do, but this book just felt like a monotone journey of just like being down, being sad. There were no ups and downs. There were some very like interesting things happening in the story, but the way it was written made me feel really detached from the characters as these like big significant things were happening. So I just couldn't like get into this and into the characters and into the story. So no. The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern by Linda Cohen Loigman. I'm gonna say maybe for this one. I'm gonna say maybe. If you like that like slow slice of life type of a story, definitely read this. It is cute. There are really, really adorable, wholesome moments in this book. It feels cozy. It feels like a warm hug, but you warned that there is not much going on. So maybe. This is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. I'm gonna say no, you know what? I'm not gonna say no, I'm gonna say maybe. I'm gonna say maybe because I think if you like word salads, if you like just seeing different beautiful ways that words can be strung together, read this book. You're gonna love this, but if you want a book that like makes sense, don't read this book. If you're reading for the plot, if you want to read a literal story, no. If you want to read something abstract that reads more like poetry, yes. So because of that, I'm gonna say maybe for this one. It was definitely a no for me, but I can see why this would be a yes for many others. So there's that. And then the last one on this middle shelf is Howl's Moving Castle. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say if you are the age category, like if you are middle grade, if you are even maybe into YA, yes. I just found this to be not very interesting to read about. I would honestly prefer watching the movie over reading the book, which is, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy for me to say that, so I'm gonna say no. Unless you're like younger. Okay, and then our last little unit on this shelf, Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I'm gonna say maybe. I think similar to Howl's Moving Castle, this one just read a little bit too young for me, a little bit too like middle grade, but there is like something beautiful and poetic about the world and the journey that this book goes on, so it's not all bad. I was really into this book at the beginning, and then it just started feeling very middle grade at the middle and especially at the end. Maybe. Yeah. More Brandon Sanderson. I actually did read Mistborn and then The Well of Ascension and The Final Empire, or what is the last one called? The Hero of Ages. This one is technically called The Final Empire in other prints. But I did read this entire trilogy this year. I'm gonna say maybe. Knowing that Mistborn was a hit for me, and then the other two in the series, similar to Tress of the Emerald Sea, just started like reading too YA and young for me, and not like in a fun, good way. I'm so conflicted on this trilogy as a whole, but again, I just know so many people love this trilogy and love Brandon Sanderson, so I'm gonna say maybe. I'm never gonna say no to Brandon Sanderson. I myself am going to keep trying Brandon Sanderson. At some point next year, I'm going to maybe get into the Stormlight Archives, maybe, or maybe some of his other standalones, but this was a maybe, a hard maybe. A Song to Drown Rivers. Yes. Of course. Read this book. If you haven't read this book yet, what are you doing? Read it. Read it now. This book broke my heart. If you want to cry, if you want beautiful writing and a tragic romance, read this. The Sirens by Amelia Hart. This is an ARC that I got, so it's not out yet. It comes out in 2025. But I would say read this book, especially if you liked Wayward. This is very similar. It follows a very similar structure, but instead of like witchiness in this one, we have sirens, mermaids, whatever you want to call them. I would recommend this one. It was good. It's not like my top reads of the year, but it was still very enjoyable. Yes to that. Ride by Ali Hazelwood. I would say maybe. I think if you want to read something and like have a good laugh, then read this book. If you want something that is like an actual romantasy and it has like good world building and a fantasy plot, then no, because the fantasy aspect of this book is not strong. But if you want a paranormal romance that's kind of like a cheeky dig on like vampire werewolf romances and that entire trope, then yes. But beware of the anatomy lesson that you're going to get in this book. Just beware. Be prepared for that, because I wasn't. The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wang. Do I even have to say it? Yes. Be emotionally prepared though. This is not a light read. This will make you cry. There are very mature adult themes and things that are traumatizing that happen here, so be warned, but this is so good. Legend Born by Tracy Dion. This one's gonna be a little controversial for me. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say maybe. I'm gonna say maybe, leaning towards no. I had really high hopes for this book. I wanted to love it. I think the themes that are explored in this book are really, really good. So I wanted to love it. But in terms of the story itself and the characters and the relationships we get in this book, I couldn't get into it. I don't know. I couldn't get the hype. I couldn't get hyped about this book. And so I'm gonna say maybe, leaning towards no for me. Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I'm gonna say yes. I really enjoyed this book. It is YA. It does have a lot of like YA romantasy tropes, but I had a lot of fun reading this. It has a very gothic vibe. It also even like similarly to Phantasma, has some like gothic horror vibe. Definitely not as like dark and deep as Phantasma because that one's adult while this one is YA, but the vibes are there. Really enjoyed this one and I'm definitely gonna continue on in the trilogy, so would say yes. What else did I read on this shelf? A Place to Hide by Ronald H. Balson. I'm gonna say no. I think similarly to Legendborn though, this as a historical fiction offered really, really good information on history and things that happened and opened my eyes to a part of World War II that I didn't know about. So because of that, I would maybe elevate this to a maybe, but just from the way the book was written, I would say no. And the last one on this shelf, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, I'm gonna say no. Again, if you're looking for something that's like spooky and like mystery and thriller and like, I don't know, scary, this didn't do it for me. It wasn't eerie for me. It tried to be scary, but it was not scary, so no. Also pretty predictable. Oh, we're ninjaing over here to our top shelf. 2 reads by Kristen Hanna. First of all, The Nightingale, yes. Second of all, The Great Alone, yes. Yes to both of these. Great historical fictions. You will learn about the world, you will learn about history, but you will also get so invested in these characters and you will also cry doing so. Obviously, yes. If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan, I'm gonna say maybe. If you want to cry, then yes. But if you get annoyed at like teenage behavior and teenage mind, then no. Circe by Madeline Miller, I'm gonna say yes. I enjoyed the Song of Achilles more than this one, but I thought this one was still good other than the ending. But we can't rewrite that because that's just what happened in mythology. If you've ever been curious about Greek mythology but don't want to get into like, you know, all those super heavy, dense reads, Madeline Miller is your girl. And The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin, yes, 100 times yes. This book feels like a warm hug. It is so cozy, it is so wholesome, but the plot is also there and it's interesting, which I think is hard to do. With cozy books, I feel like a lot of them don't have intriguing plots. They are just there to be cozy, but this one does it all. So, yes. You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao. I think similar to If He Had Been With Me. If you want to read a book that's just gonna make you cry, then read this. But if you get frustrated, again, like if you get frustrated at like teenager minds and like being in their heads, then no. So I'm gonna say a maybe for this one. Swan Song by Ellen Hilderbrand. I'm gonna say no. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said no to Ellen Hilderbrand. I just think her other books are better. If you want to read one of her books, I would recommend The Hotel Nantucket or The 5-Star Weekend. Both of them were just a lot more interesting than this one. It's one of the weaker ones out of her collection. The Wedding People by Allison S. Patch. I'm gonna say yes. This book gives you like a tough, gritty look at the human mind and human relationship. It's very real. The concept, like the premise of this book is a little bit dark and sad, but the way it's done is kind of humorous and just, I don't know, it feels like a breath of fresh air reading this book. I would say yes. Oh my gosh, this book, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. Yes, will make you absolutely sob. Yeah. Yes. Oh, sorry, little Eggy. I'm gonna have to disturb you. Oh, no. 2 more Kristen Hannas that I read this year. The Four Winds. I'm gonna say maybe. This was definitely the weakest book from her that I read this year. It was a little bit boring, to be quite honest, but I do think, again, like with a lot of historical fictions, you do learn a lot in this book about the world and what happened in our history, and I think that's important to know. And this book wasn't all bad. There were good moments in it. It was just a lot of it was repetitive and it got a bit boring. But yeah, I'm gonna say maybe. The Women, on the other hand, absolutely yes. This is my favorite book from Kristen Hanna. Maybe? Yes. I'm just gonna move you for now. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I'm gonna say yes. This one was a super fun read. Obviously, it was also made into a movie on Prime. It was a good time. It was fun. I liked it. How to End a Love Story. I'm gonna say no. This one disappointed me, unfortunately. I really wanted to love it. I think the premise was very ambitious for a romance novel. I don't think it quite got there. Like, it didn't quite pay off with the ambitious premise. I am curious to see what Yulin Kwong writes next because I think she does have potential to put something amazing together, but this one didn't really do it for me. And I began my Catherine Center journey this year, the rom-commers, and I read Hello Stranger. I keep flip-flopping between which one of these I liked better. These two, I feel like if you like smooshed these two together, it would have been the perfect romance. I'm going to say yes to both of these. I think they both had things going for them, so yes. Moving down, I did read, oh, you know what? I'm gonna put Mr. Egg back. Or Mrs. Egg. I read 2 classics this year. I read The Great Gatsby and I read Anna Karenina. The Great Gatsby, I'm gonna say maybe. It was fine. It wasn't anything special, I don't think. But Anna Karenina, I'm gonna say yes. This was a masterpiece. The Paradise Problem I read this year. I'm not gonna extract it from under all these books. I just don't want to displace everything. But I'm gonna say maybe. If you just want something that's a fun time, that's like a billionaire romance, then read it. But the main character was very frustrating for me. It was one of those, and it wasn't my favorite. If you just want a light summer read, then sure. All right, we're on this row now. We're getting there, guys. This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I'm gonna say no to this one, but I'm gonna say maybe to, what was it? I always forget what the first book in this series was called. Before I Let Go. I think that one was better than this one, so I'm gonna say no to this one, but I'm gonna say maybe to Before I Let Go. 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. Maybe? I can't believe I'm saying this twice in this video, but similarly to Howl's Moving Castle, I think the movie was better. So I think if you want to experience the story, because it's a really good story, it'll make you cry, it's really like, you know, it'll touch your heart, I would say the movie's better. I would say watch the movie and you will get the better experience. Lunar Love by Laura Kung Jessen. I'm gonna so sadly say no. This is another book I wanted to really love. The romance was very flat. The banter was very stereotypical. Didn't make me giggle. Just didn't do it. The 2 Julie Sotos I read this year. Not Another Love Song. I'm gonna say yes. Read this book. It's so much fun. It's a little steamy, but it's really fun. And Forget Me Not, I would say maybe. This was the weaker of the 2 for me. I didn't really love this one. So maybe, but yes. This Time It's Real by Anne Liang. 100%. Yes. Anything by Anne Liang? Yes. She just writes so well. This is a very short book as well. It's a YA romance, but I love it. I just love it. The Friend Zone and Life's Too Short. I'm honestly gonna say no to these, especially if you've read Abby Jimenez, her newer releases, like The Part of Your World, Yours Truly, Just for the Summer. If you've read those and loved those, I would say don't read her previous books. I just think her writing has progressed so much since these that if you read these ones after you've read her newer ones, they will be a letdown. If you haven't read her newer releases though, maybe give these a try. Maybe start with these and then see the progression and improvement of her writing. I really wanted to love these because Abby Jimenez is one of my favorite romance authors currently, but these weren't really it. Okay, and funny story. I don't know if you can see it. It's here. I'm also not gonna take this out, but funny story by Emily Henry. Yes. Yes, yes. All right, guys, we're standing. The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. Yes, especially if you've read the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy. Definitely read this. It is a direct continuation from that series. You get to see all your favorite characters again, plus a few more. But if you haven't read A Darker Shade of Magic yet, go read that first. Vicious and Vengeful. Yes, anything V.E. Schwab, really. This is so good, so good. If you want to read about morally gray character, if you want to read about a little bit of sci-fi, if you want to read about anti-superheroes, yeah, that box set that I just showed you, yes. I finished A Conjuring of Light, which is the third book in the Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab as well. Obviously, yes. Okay, you know what? The only V.E. Schwab that I would say maybe is Gallant. I think just out of her other books, this one's a bit weaker. It is YA. Premise, strong. Mood, strong. Atmosphere, strong. Honestly, the first 75% of the book, strong. It was really only the ending that didn't really wrap things up as nicely as I would have liked and didn't explain everything as much as I would like, but I still enjoyed most of it. Like, as I said, 75% of it was amazing, really, really great. But because I expect perfection from V.E. Schwab, I'm gonna say maybe on Gallant. Good Old House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. You know what? I know people hated this book. It's still super fun. If you are a Sarah J. Maas reader, you have to read this one. You have to. Like, to get the full experience of her world and her universe, you have to read it. So, for that reason, I say yes. I'm not going to take these off my shelf, but I did do a full reread of the Throne of Glass series and a full reread of the ACOTAR series this year. Actually, not even a full reread. I only did ACOTAR, ACOMOF, and ACOWAR, but I did do all of Throne of Glass. No, that's also a lie. I didn't do a reread of Tower of Dawn, but I did all the rest of them, and I would recommend every single one of them. So yeah. Okay, and now we are squatting. Burning God by R.F. Kuang. Read this to finish off the series this year. I will always recommend this series. I will always say yes, but I will also just trigger warning. Similarly to The Sword of Kaigen, both of these books are loosely based on the same real-world historical event, so they both have the same traumatic things that happen in them. So be warned, not a happy read. Not a happy read, but a great read, a masterpiece. This series is so good. It broke me down to my core. Highly recommend it. It's like as Ron says, you're gonna cry, but you're gonna be happy about it. Is that the quote? It's gonna hurt, but you're gonna be happy about it. You know what I mean. The Will of the Many by James Islington. Yes, one of my favorite reads this year. If you're looking for that like really epic journey of like high fantasy, The Will of the Many. And I did also read Ninth House and Hellbent both this year by Leigh Bardugo. Yes, I would recommend these. I love them. If you want dark academia with like demons, magic, read these. I think there are a couple in here that I read this year as well that I have hidden. You'd Be Home Now by Kathleen Glasgow. I'm gonna say no. Hold on, I'm gonna move you down. You're too tall. I'm gonna say no. I think as I was reading this book, I was like just so conflicted, but after like sitting on it for a while, I would say that this book didn't really affect me in any way in the long run. So I'm gonna say no. Hover Girls by Geneva Bowers. This is actually the only graphic novel that I read this year. I'm not really a graphic novel girly, but I would say no. I just didn't understand the story. Like, the illustrations are great. They're so fun, but I had no idea what was going on. Everything was so like disjointed. I don't know if that's a graphic novel thing or if it's just like, you know, it's me not knowing how to read graphic novels, but I didn't get it, so no. A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. I'm also gonna say no. I feel like most of the books that I put on this like hidden shelf are no books for me. That's why they're on the hidden shelf. But this one, while it had a very intriguing premise for a murder mystery, the way it was told, the order that it was told was not good. Do you hear Sage right now? I think Huffy and I both have our doors like closed just to have some privacy, and she doesn't like that, so she's just going crazy right now. I'll open my door when I'm done filming this video, but I'm sorry if you hear her like wailing. Sage, baby. She's a very vocal cat, you guys. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. You know what? I'm actually gonna say maybe to this one. I'm not gonna say no. I think this one was very interesting. Such an interesting read, different from anything else I read this year, and I did enjoy the read. Like, I thought the experience of it was really interesting. What I didn't like about this book is the lack of explanation at the end of this book, and I understand that the genre, the type of this book, it's a dystopian novel, but it's like a literary fiction dystopian novel. So we don't get answers to why we are in this dystopian world. How did we get here? Who put us here? Those are the questions that I personally want answered when I'm reading a book like this. But this book was more about like going into the minds of the people who were trapped in this dystopian world and like how they thought and how their brains developed. So it was more of a character analysis in this hypothetical dystopian world, which was very interesting to read. But as someone who just like is so logical and plot driven, I needed answers, and we didn't get those in this book. So I would say maybe. And then the last one on the shelf, Humor Me by Kat Shook. I'm gonna say no. I think this book was just boring. It got a little bit too overly political in the way that like stand-up comedians do, but I think when stand-up comedians do it, you get the performance along with it, so the jokes actually hit. Where in this book, the jokes are just written. You don't get that performance, you don't get the delivery of the lines. It doesn't work that way. So no to that one. And those are all the physical books that I read this year, but to go through the Kindle books, I feel like we've been talking for a while, so I'm just gonna do a simple yes, no, or maybe on these ones with no explanation. If you want an explanation on these ones, let me know in the comments and I'll just type one out for you, I don't know. Okay, going through the Kindle books. Darling Girls, no. The Coven, no. First Lie Wins, no. Yellowface, yes. Wayward, yes. Queen of Roses, yes. Royal Valentine, no. Rosie and the Dreamboat, no. Worst Wingman Ever, yes. The Exception to the Rule, yes. With Any Luck, no. Drop, Cover, and Hold On, no. The 7-Year Slip, no. Magnolia Parks, yes, only so you can continue on to Daisy Hates, but Magnolia Parks as a book itself, maybe. The Last Letter, maybe. Death at Friars Inn, no. Manacled, yes. Evidence of the Affair, no. The Dead Guy Next Door, no. Annie Bot, no. Butcher and Blackbird, maybe. Leather and Lark though, no. This Summer Will Be Different, only if you're on a beach. Honey, what was Honey? What? I read a book called Honey this year. I read a book called Mad Honey 2 years ago. Who knows what that was? But moving on. When Among Crows, no. Not in Love, no. Check and Mate, yes. What the Woods Took, no. Tangled Up in You, no. A Novel Love Story, maybe. Jade City, yes. Quicksilver, no. Zodiac Academy, no. From Luke Off with Love, yes. Natural Selection, no. Impractical Magic, no. In Age of Winters, no. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, maybe. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, yes. And Gifted and Talented, maybe. Oh my gosh, you know what? I have a whole other stack of books I read this year too. My December books that I haven't wrapped up yet, so they're still over there, not shelved. Oh my gosh! We're gonna one-word these ones as well. Let me just get the stack. Yeah, for these December reads, we're gonna one-word them, yes, no, or maybe. And I'm still going to wrap up these books and post my December wrap-up in January, so you will get more of an explanation on these ones, I promise. But The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, maybe. The Rule of the Aurora King, no. No for now. I'm gonna see how the 3rd book goes, but for now, no. Ooh, The Christmas Tree Farm, no. P.S. I Hate You, maybe. Maybe yes. Yes. Maybe. Sorcery of Small Magics, yes, absolutely. Wreck the Halls, absolutely not. Ministry of Time, yes, yes, yes. Daisy Hates, yes. Intermezzo, Okay, I ended up loving it, but I'm gonna say maybe because it was also so frustrating to read and I don't want to force anyone to go through that, especially if you are like me and cannot stand the fact that Sally Rooney does not use quotation marks and the way she writes is very frustrating. It's annoying. This book was so good. So I'm gonna say maybe. Wild Love, maybe. And then this book I'm actually currently reading, but I'm gonna finish it today before the end of December. By the way, it's December 28th on the day I'm filming this. So I'm definitely gonna finish this by the end of this year. And so far, I'm halfway through, but I'm gonna say yes. So far. Oh my gosh, you guys. That was it, and I have 5% battery left on my camera to spare. That was 158 books. I think it was technically less, but a couple books I like reread this year. Like When the Moon Hatched, I read twice this year, you know, stuff like that. But that was everything. I hope you enjoyed this big, I don't know, can we call this a wrap up of the 158 books that we read in 2024? If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, let me know 3 books that you read this year that are yes, no, or maybe. Like give me 1 yes book, 1 maybe book, and 1 no book. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!